Welcome to episode 9 of Anxiety and Depression Adventures. This one's entitled Just Live With It. And you may find that a little bit odd, offensive, degrading, less than uplifting as far as getting rid of it. Getting a pill that will make it disappear and go away like it never ever happened, or the underlying causes and we're never there. But here we sit today, and you have depression, some variety of it, anxiety, panic attacks, low self-esteem. But here's the guts of it from my point of view. As the people who have been watching this series of episodes knows, I have had very low self-esteem since childhood. It has manifested itself in a variety of ways, butterflies in my tummy for most of my life until peak stress magnified that and kept it peaked as a generalized anxiety disorder. Thankfully, without panic attacks per se, but not a day goes by that I don't feel both physically and mentally under the burden of intense anxiety, and it does interfere with my life. So, after much medication trials and hospitalization visits and psychology experts to talk to, psychiatrists, it goes on and on and on, all of which have helped. I have accepted the fact that probably until I enter my grave, I'm going to be living with anxiety. So the choice is mine. Do I want to live my life around anxiety, always anticipating it, always working around it, always trying to find an escape from it? Or do I simply want to accept it openly as a part of who I am and get on with it? This is essentially the nonverbal thinking that I'm receiving from the health professionals that I work with, which is, Dave, we've tried pretty much everything, including ECT or electric convulsive therapy, just like the good old days. They put the old zappers on your forehead and bzzz, it induces a controlled seizure, which is supposed to, or the theory goes, particularly with depression, the seizure, for whatever reason, and I still don't know why, for centuries, has actually alleviated depression symptoms. So it doesn't work for anxiety, but nonetheless, about a year or two ago, I went through a series of these, and about the only benefit I got from it is I thought it was really cool being given the anesthetic and going to sleep within 8 seconds before they zap my head. Other than that, I can't say I really got any benefit from it, but it certainly isn't like the movie, Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or whatever. Anyway, coming back to getting on with things. For those of you that are like myself, we are at a point where we need to accept the fact that this is a part of us. This is a part of our self. This is a part of our personality. This is how we were built. Or this is not how we were built, but this is arisen out of life. And I can medicate myself all day long. I can drink as much as I want. I can do whatever it takes to get away from it all. And I know that the more I try to avoid it, the more it's going to control me. The more I'm going to avoid difficult situations. The more I'm going to avoid invitation to speaking engagements. The more I'm going to avoid going to somebody's wedding. The more drugs I'm going to take. And it goes on and on and on. And I think any of us with any rationale is going to understand that none of those behaviors are going to lead to anything better other than addictions and loss of income and a very secluded life. So I'm at the point now where I have accepted the fact that David, as a person, as a father, as a contributing member to society, wakes up every day feeling anxious, and it has its ebbs and flows, but it's always there, that I probably will always require some level of medication. And while there are some behavioral and lifestyle changes I likely could do better on, it will remain with me. But the question is, do I want it to control and dictate my life and choices? No, my friends, I do not. So my psychologist gave me somewhat of an analogy, which is you go into, and I think it might be one of my earlier videos, but anyway, it's worth repeating. You go into the grocery store or the drug store, wherever you think you're only picking up 2 things, and you walk out with 20. And you don't even bother with a basket or a cart. You just put them in your arm, and they keep piling up and piling up and piling up. Well, after a while, it's becoming a real pain in the butt, and it's becoming more of a distraction to what you're doing than actually getting through the checkout and getting back to whatever you were doing. Versus, and though in this particular example, it could be misconstrued as stealing, so let's just put that aside for a moment. You could view it as a knapsack that you have on your back, and all these things are getting chucked into the knapsack, but your hands are free. You're not always looking down to see if you drop something. You're not obsessed with what you're carrying. And in my case, I'm going to call it anxiety and depression. I'm still going to get my shopping done. I'm going to get through checkout. I'm going to get in my car, and I'm going to go back to work, or I'm going to go wherever. It doesn't mean the load is lessened, but I've accepted the fact I need to carry this load. It's something that, for whatever reason, has been brought into my life, and I need to find healthy, positive ways of dealing with them and still having a happy life. So I'm going to put all those items into my knapsack every morning. I'm going to acknowledge they're there. It's kind of like, hey, anxiety, how you doing this morning? Or, hey, depression, how you feeling? I can guess. And move on with my day. And proactively make choices based on what I believe to be the wisest things for me to do, knowing that, I'm going to feel anxious as I'm driving. I'm going to wake up, and before noon hour, I'm going to feel like there's some form of electricity or a cable plugged into my rear end because I'm just zzz, like this. But nonetheless, I'm still going to do it. And with a bit of luck, over time, I will do what I've mentioned in my earlier episodes, is develop new habits and new neural pathways in my brain that are going to learn that, Mr. Anxiety or depression that comes around, he always was the boss, but now it seems another part of Dave's brain has taken over, and that anxiety is still there. He wants me to focus on different stuff now. So it's part not feeding it, it's part not being a slave to it, it's part doing the breathing exercises, the heart math type of activity, meditation, taking your meds as prescribed, getting lots of exercise, get that excess energy out of you, and moving ahead with your life and with your goals. And I'm not saying this because it's easy. You all know by now I'm 12 years in, and I don't have any light at the end of the tunnel that's going to tell me that, oh, by March or whatever, I'm going to suddenly be relieved of this stress. I know I mentally create this stress. And you know how I know I don't? How I know that I create it? It's because on those rare occasions when I'm outside of my natural habitat, shall we say, I don't want to say on vacation because I don't want you to jump to that conclusion that going to the Bahamas for 2 weeks is going to alleviate it, because no, it will follow you. But when I have my kids up on weekends, my daughter's at an age now where it really isn't appropriate for her and I to sleep in the same bed, so I have the pull-out couch type of thing. I'm in a different sleeping environment. That part of my house is a cooler room, so I usually put a hoodie on when I wake up in the middle of the night, and I tend to pull it over my head. Normal trigger for me to wake up early in the morning is a combination of daylight and sudden feelings of anxiety. And I've noticed that, on those weekends when my daughter's here and I'm sleeping out on the pull-out couch and I've got that hoodie on so I can't see the daylight, I sleep in, which is something I normally can't do on a regular day. I sometimes do have initial feelings of anxiety starting at 5 a.m., but if I'm still tired enough, like we were up late watching a movie or something, that's continued need for sleep tends to overtake it. So there's been times I've actually slept until 9 a.m., which may not sound like a lot to you, but for me, that's like an extra 2 to 3 hours in my day. And yeah, the same anxiety is there. And yeah, it's broken my sleep pattern, so sometimes I do incur additional symptoms throughout the day. But simply by that fact that I was able to trick my eyes into not seeing daylight and not knowing what time it was, I was able to sleep in longer than I ever normally could in my own bed without a hoodie on, covering up my eyes. So I know darn well that my brain has programmed itself, or I've programmed it, that I'm probably wasting time by sleeping in, that I'm being unproductive, I'm not contributing to society, I'm not following a good old work ethic, blah, 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 all these shoulds in my life, and therefore you're not meeting expectations, and that drives anxiety with me. So, based on that little unscientific experiment, I happen to know that, I am creating in my mind. So I need to create something new. Get on with it. Live with it. Don't focus on it. Don't feed it. Try new things. Don't succumb to what it wants you to do, which is basically shut down and die. You have a decision to make. Do you want to or don't you? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I lead a very secluded, lonely life. I really don't have any friends. I rarely see my children. I had my daughter here for the weekend. We had a wonderful time. And sadly, this afternoon when I took her home, her mother informed me that I wouldn't be seeing either of the kids for 2 weeks. I could choose tonight to get really down about it, but I'm simply going to accept it. Allowing it to be is my way of not fighting it. Allowing it to be deprives it of energy. So I'm going to do something different. I'll make different plans for next weekend. I don't know what, but I'll figure something out. So, again, all of this has been my story, my life's experience with it. This may or may not be similar to what you're going through, but there are so many of us in society today. I still need to make that episode on the dysfunctional society that we live in. So maybe I'll do that in the next couple of days. But bottom line, I'm sharing with you what I've rarely shared with anyone else. So, boy, aren't you special. But nonetheless, I hope some of what I'm conveying in these episodes, even though I'm not getting a ton of views and that type of thing, I'm hoping over time that as people do view some of these episodes or all of them or subscribe or whatever, do see some glimmer of a similarity, and if they're new to this experience and are scared to hell, don't know where to turn, that type of thing, that some part of my experience can be helpful to you. I mean, that's why I'm doing this. So that's it for this episode. I want to thank you again for your attention, for subscribing, for adding any comments or leaving any questions that you might like. Oh, you know what? One thing you might be curious about is this on my nose. Yeah, that's with great gratitude to my wonderful golden retriever, Abby. We were in the backyard with my daughter on Saturday morning and roughhousing with the dog, and the dog decided to jump up just as I decided to lean over to pet her, and well, bang, her mouth hit my nose, and suddenly I was bleeding. So anyway, no, I have not been in any fights or anything else. Just in case, you know, the two of you watching are actually curious about that. Anyway, this is it for the video and for this episode, number 9. Live with it. I hope it's been helpful, and I will always welcome any comments that you might have. Okay? So until next time, have a great day.